So on this stage we have the heads of agencies and their representatives from 7 of the major space agencies across the world. We have NASA, the European Space Agency, Roscosmos, JAXA, CNAS, ISRO, and also CSA. And I must admit, never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be sitting amongst a panel of such distinguished guests. And so I must admit I am a little excited by all of this. And this is also my first IAC, so I guess it can only go downhill from here. Now, I have spent my career working as a space scientist over the last 10 or so years, and that was a fulfillment of a crazy dream. Because as a child, I got the space bug very early on. I've always been looking out there at the night sky and wondering what's going on. But I became a space scientist against the odds because I suffered from dyslexia and I was in the remedial class at school. So space is a passion for me. But I think space is a passion for each and every one of us. But the space industry needs to become more inclusive. We need to involve more people. And I think we need to go around sharing our passion for the subject and just sort of involving more people wherever possible. And so the format of the discussion that's going to take place here today, each of the agencies will come up and give a 3 to 4 minute presentation. And the theme of that talk will be what's new for space agencies. Now, you may see them coming up in a fairly random order. This is because we actually drew straws earlier to see who would be coming up first. And so, yes, as I say, it'll be a fairly random order. Now, in some cases, the agency have proposed a poll question, and this is very much where you, the audience, come in. Because for these poll questions, we need your feedback, we need your input. Now, to participate in this, you need to have downloaded the IAF app. And in the app, you go into IC events and also type in the code, ask a question, then type in the code IAC. And the questions you ask will be actually posed up on the stage here, and we're going to see the questions. So for each space agency, a poll question will be posed. And at the end of their session, at the end of their presentation, the results of that poll will be discussed. Okay, after we've done the State of the Nation address, we will go on to the question and answer session. And I must admit, having sat here up on the stage, I have a number of questions I'd like to ask myself. But again, this is involving everyone, so we'll be throwing the questions over to you. So please go on the app and load up your questions. This has a twofold effect. Firstly, you can actually fire up questions to answer and ask this distinguished audience. But secondly, you can vote for the questions you want to see answered. And there will be a running poll, a running list on the stage here, on the screens, where you can actually work out what question is going to come up. So do please participate. Okay, also I think we might be getting some questions in via live link, because this is sort of being beamed across the planet. Finally, we will ask the Vice President of the IFA, who is also here in a dual capacity as also head of the European Space Agency, Jan Werner, and he will come up and give a short summary as to what we've discussed here today. So yes, as the theme is involve everybody, please do get involved. But just as a word of warning before I sit down, I think for many of you, English is not your first language. Unfortunately for me, English is my only language. But while I'm up here sitting with this distinguished panel, I get very excited, and I must admit I get very excited about space. And when I get excited and slightly nervous, I speak quite fast. And so if anyone in the audience doesn't understand what I'm saying, please give me an indication like this to slow me down, and I will try and accommodate. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you very much. So, calling up first to the stage is Jan Werner, head of the European Space Agency.
Okay, good afternoon to everybody, and I'm very happy that I can present a little bit involving everyone and what it means yesterday, today and tomorrow. And I would like to have my first slide, please. If you start the presentation, it would be very nice. So, involving everyone has some very special facets, and when we're looking in today's world, what we see is that the shift of paradigm in space is happening. But I would be really loved if the presentation would be started. I can do it also without it. Anyhow, so the shift of paradigm of today in space has many different aspects. So for instance, the aspect of more commercialization. This is trivial. The second thing is that we have more spacefaring nations. It's about more than 70 spacefaring nations worldwide. Then we have a situation that we have a change of motivation why to do space, a change of roles of space agencies. You see here on the left-hand side what I'm talking about, different motivations, different actors, different contents. That means also the space agencies have a different role now and in the future, which is not so easy. It's easy to say a different role, but I will come to that in my short statement in a minute. And that means also that how we implement projects and programs, we will do it in a different manner in the future. On the right-hand side, you see a lot of what I call Space 4.0, and I will not go into all of this, but of course new space is part of it, that's worldwide. But you see here also that I'm talking about participation. You see it over there. Participation is again involving everyone. You see also on the other side, you see now the questions you can answer. Diversity, information, innovation, inspiration, interaction, cooperation, digitalization, all of this is part of this new activities in shift of paradigm. And therefore we need new instruments, as I said. In the past, I have to go very much in the past, the agencies were defining everything. They were defining a new program, a new project, had the money from the taxpayer, and then in some strong interaction, close interaction with industry, the projects were realized. It worked perfectly. But the world is changing. Now we are seeing that industry is becoming also more self-standing, and that means the next step was public-private partnership. This was one step. But we will have even further developments where we are looking in turnkey projects. I will not go into all the details, but it's clear there is a shift of paradigm also in the instruments, how we realize space activities. And if there is a change of instruments, we have also a change of roles. And in this picture I just show you a little bit something what we can do and what we are doing. On the very left hand side, totally new type of satellite, it's called Aeolus. It's a satellite we launched on the 22nd of August from French Guiana. This is an Earth observation satellite measuring with the Doppler effect, which you all know, with the Doppler effect, the speed of wind globally. So we will have afterwards a global picture of the wind on our whole Earth. This was made in a more traditional way, as I said before. In the middle you see the change in how we are working for the future. We are calling industry to give us some interest, some information about what they would like to do in the question of in-orbit servicing and debris removal. And this is not just how they would like to get our money, but how they are intending to do service in orbit servicing and in debris removal. And still it's open. You have time until the 15th of October. Go on the ESA webpage, you can still participate in that. There are some requirements you should follow then. And on the right-hand side of this picture, you see the question of involving everyone. We will have in November this year, we have what we call European Space Talks, where all ESA staff, plus also industry, and whoever feels responsible should go out, not only to the converted ones, you are all maybe converted, but to go out and talk with citizens. So for instance, myself, I will be the full day at an airport and discuss with all the passengers entering into the airport and leaving the airport. So therefore, these different types of activities coming from the traditional way, using new methods, even more commercialization, but at the same time, participation by involving everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And in terms of the poll question was, in which area do you expect the next big thing to develop? And space transportation got 41%, followed by science exploration and space safety, and then finally space transportation. Is that what you expected?
No. But space transportation is of course something where we, from a European perspective, are looking towards autonomy, to have an autonomous access to space, which is important not to be alone, but to be a strong partner. And therefore, it's not a really surprise, but I'm surprised that it's number one in this order, yes.
Perfect, thank you very much. So I'd like to call my next speaker, which is Kay Saman from Israel. Thank you very much.
distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. I feel extremely happy to be part of the global community in space for the 69th International Astronomical Congress 2018, organized by IAF of Bremen. If I say in the last 1 year, we had many missions, and the significant one is to complete the constellation of the Indian Regional Navigation System, NAVIC, on April 12, 2018. The entire ground segment is also in place, and this system is ready for operation. In addition to navigation and timing services, the NAVIC constellation is being used for many novel applications. A handheld unit and mobile application has been developed for dissemination of information on potential fishing zones to the fishermen community. This service over the last 4 years has increased the income of around 8 million fishermen in the western coast of India by 7 to 8 billion US dollars. Geofencing is another feature which is used for protection of not only heritage sites but also alerts the fishermen if they sail into the neighboring countries' waters. Another novel application is safe yet unmanned railway crossings, wherein the train is averted on approaching the unmanned level crossing. We have lined up many missions for the next 1 year, launching of India's second mission to the moon, Chandrayaan-2, with the orbital lander rover, will be a significant mission in the upcoming year of ISRO. ISRO also has a plan to cooperate a constellation of new generation high-throughput satellites which will provide a capacity of about 100 Gbps. GSAT-9 is in the orbit and operational. The remaining satellite will be planned very shortly to address the connectivity requirements of rural areas as well as in-flight connectivity. ISRO has always taken a conscious decision to involve all the stakeholders on board for the space program. This has resulted in spread of space science R&D activities in the academia. The industrial capacity has been benefited for manufacturing of space systems, which calls for higher level of precision, inspection and quality as well as documentation traceability. The government is harnessing the fruits of space technology for service of delivery of government schemes, in which all enhanced levels of transparency and accountability. The last mile connectivity issues are resolved for common citizens, which has resulted in the reach of critical services to the far-flung corners of the country. I believe effective engagement with our domestic stakeholders is very important for realizing the space technology benefits for full potential. This must be applicable to all space agencies. Now, we need another cooperation from space agencies for addressing a grave problem, that is space debris problem. With the advent of small and nano satellites, the debris problem is going to explode on our faces in future. The space situational awareness is going to play a very crucial role in sustaining the satellite operations in a safe and effective manner. I request all the space agencies, heads and leaders present here to come together and address and discuss this issue at a global level in a cost-effective way to get a better solution. Thank you all.
Yes, and we've got the final poll from your question about small satellites being of benefit to non-space going nations. And I think the final total was around 73 for yes. So I think that's quite a firm yes for small satellites. Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Qiang Zhen from CNAS, the administrator here. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
非常高兴来参加此次航天局长的论坛。
I'm very pleased to be here to be part of the Space Agency Forum.
下面我就 中国航天活动的有关情况，先向大家做一个简要的介绍。
I would like to introduce some of the space activities that we conducted.
那么今年以来呢，中国已经实施了26次发射，其中1月份交付的硬 X 射线调制望远镜卫星和2月份发射的电磁监测试验卫星，将为空间科学研究提供基础数据源。
Up to now, we have conducted, from the very beginning of this year, 26 launches. In January, we launched the heart rate X-ray modulation telescope, and in February, we launched the electromagnetic study satellite. All of these will provide a solid foundation for data exploitations for space science.
那么5月份发射的高分5号全谱段高光谱卫星是全球大气环境监测的重要手段之一。
In May, we successfully launched the Gaofen 5 or GF5 hyperspectral satellite, which is a very important method for studying Earth's atmosphere.
那么今年12月份呢，中国还将发射嫦娥4号探测器，开展月球背面的着陆巡视探测。为此，5月份发射的鹊桥号地月中继卫星，以实现月球背面的测控支持。
In the logbook, we will launch the Chang'e 4 mission to the far side of the moon for landing and rover mission. For that connection, we have successfully launched and deployed to the halo point the data relay satellite, or called 鹊桥 satellite, which is going to be for support of the mission on the far side of the moon.
那么今年年底还将发射4颗北斗导航卫星，届时将实现对亚洲及欧洲、非洲大部分地区的覆盖。
By end of this year, 5 more Beidou navigation satellites will be launched. By then, we will have a navigation that is capable of augmenting regional navigation capability for Asia, Europe, and most of Africa.
本次大会的主题是包罗万众，这与中国航天发展所秉持的理念相一致。
The meeting of the theme is involving everyone, which is incoherent with what we have in the concept of development in China.
中国愿意与各国共享航天发展的成果，共同构建外空领域人类命运共同体。
China is willing to contribute and cooperate with other international partners to build and form a outer space community of common destiny for the whole world.
当前，中国正在建设“一带一路”空间信息走廊，将发射一系列新的对地观测卫星、通讯广播卫星。一方面将积极地推进航天技术服务中国经济社会发展，另一方面通过多种方式为其他国家和国际组织服务，并希望与一些国际同行共同利用航天技术应对全球气候变化、重大自然灾害监测。目前，中国已经为非洲、东盟等国际用户提供了大量的数据服务，为亚太空间合作组织成员国发布了22万余景卫星图片。
Currently, China is building a build and road initiative for spatial information corridor, and this involves launching of series of telecommunication and remote sensing satellites. In one way, China is actively supporting space technology for its socio-economic development. But on the other hand, we're also joining our cooperations with national and international organizations for provision of services, and jointly with other international partners for using space technology for Earth climate change and major disaster mitigations. China has been providing data to Africa and ASEAN countries for quantitative data services, and has distributed more than 220,000 scenes of space images to Asia-Pacific Space Cooperation Organization member states.
中国愿意与各国开展航天技术的合作，共同促进航天技术的发展。
China is willing to join our hands for international space cooperations and to jointly promote space development.
中法联合研制的中法海洋卫星计划于本月底发射。中国和巴西联合研制的资源卫星历经30年，第6颗卫星将于2019年发射。中国与伊萨联合研制的 SMILE 卫星正式启动。
China is jointly cooperating with France. The Sino-Franco Civil-Sat oceanography satellite will be launched by end of this month. China and Brazil is joining our hands for more than 30 years, and the number 6 satellite of CBERS 04-A will be launched by 2019. China and ESA is cooperating very closely, and current program including the SMILE, which is a heliophysics study program, and that will be launched officially now.
那么嫦娥4号任务呢，搭载了荷兰、德国、瑞典、沙特等国的科学载荷。中国也愿意利用鹊桥号中继卫星，为其他国家的探月任务提供中继服务。
The China 4 mission involved many international cooperation partners, including Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, and Saudi Arabia, for their scientific instruments on board. China is also willing to use the telecommunication and relay satellite of the far side of the moon, or 鹊桥, for future lunar missions by other international partners.
中国第2次月球采样返回任务嫦娥6号正在按计划实施。中国愿意在轨道器和着陆器上为国际合作伙伴提供10公斤的搭载能力。
The Chinese lunar sample return mission, Chang'e 6, is being implemented. In this process, I would like to officially announce 10 kilograms of extra payload capabilities to international partners should you be interested in joining the Chang'e 6 mission.
中国空间站将于2022年建成，欢迎国际同行利用中国空间站开展科学研究，以火星探测、小行星探测的深空探测工程将全面展开，期待有意愿的伙伴参与其中。
The Chinese space station will be completed by the year 2022. We welcome international participations by using the Chinese space station for scientific research. The Mars and planetary missions of CNSA is being also implemented, and we're looking forward to have international cooperations in this particular area.
中国鼓励商业航天的发展，支持社会公众参与航天活动。
The Chinese government encourage commercial space development, and we support social participation in space activity.
希望更多的商业企业参与火箭与卫星研制和运营，低轨全球卫星通讯系统、较高分辨率的对地观测卫星都拟采用商业化运作模式发展。也欢迎国际同行参与这些系统的建设和运营。中国通过设立中国航天日等方式普及航天知识，鼓励社会力量积极参与航天事业发展。
We support and hope to have more commercial enterprise to enter the launch vehicle and satellite manufacturing capability market. And low Earth orbit observation and telecommunication systems has been commercialized in China. We welcome international partners to jointly build such a system at commercial level. China has also officially established the Space Day of China, which is for promotion of space knowledge and to the public, and also encourage the young generations to get involved in space development.
中国国家航天局愿意与各国同行携手共进，为航天可持续发展和人类的文明和进步做出更大的贡献。
CNSA is willing to join our hands with other international partners for the betterment of human civilization and progress of human society.
谢谢大家。
Thank you very much.
And the poll question was, what should we do to better promote satellite application for the benefit of all nations, especially developing countries? And I think it was mainly number 1 and number 4 that got the most votes. So sort of providing data and making it sort of freely available. Thank you. So next I'd like to invite up to the stage Hiroshi Yamakawa, thank you, the JAXA President. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, in recent years, new players are actively emerging to participate in space activities. Today, I would like to introduce JAXA's challenges of involving our international partners through the following key themes: gateway towards space exploration and gateway for emerging countries in Asia-Pacific region. First, I would like to highlight the Hayabusa 2 mission, which aims to explore the C-type asteroid called Ryugu and return to the Earth in 2020, carrying the sample from Ryugu. This mission is the successor of Hayabusa 1, which brought back the wonders of space by succeeding in the world's first attempt to return sample from an asteroid Itokawa. This June, Hayabusa 2 arrived at Ryugu asteroid after its launch in December 2014. A few days ago, actually 1 week ago, the rover carried by Hayabusa 2 called Minerva 2 succeeded in landing on the asteroid. Hayabusa 2 is also, this is the world's first attempt to succeed in exploring the surface of the asteroid. Hayabusa 2 is also carrying a lander called Mascot, developed by DLR Germany and CNES France, and I am pleased to inform you that its commemorative landing to Ryugu is scheduled on October 3rd during this IAC conference. This sample return mission of Hayabusa 2 will contribute to unraveling the mystery of the Earth and space. Starting with Hayabusa 2, JAXA's follow-on mission to the Moon and beyond for exploration includes SLIM, the lander for investigating the Moon, and MMX for investigating the Martian Moon. With the technologies obtained through these missions, JAXA will open the gateway for space exploration and actively participate in the coordination with our international partners to promote space exploration. Second, I would like to highlight the Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum, APRSAF. This November, APRSAF will celebrate its 25th anniversary in Singapore, hosted by SSTA, Singapore Space Technology Association, MEX, Minister of Education, and JAXA. This picture shows students from Singapore watching astronaut Kanai conduct experiments of their proposals. Starting with this program called Agent 50G, APRSAF acts as a gateway for countries in the Asia-Pacific region to actively participate in space activities. Other initiatives of APRSAF include Sentinel Asia for disaster management cooperation in the region, and new efforts such as joint development of innovative small and cube satellites are also being discussed in the APRSAF. So I would like to conclude my presentation by stating that JAXA is committed to cooperating with our international partners. Involving everyone will be the key for further development of space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on your poll question, as to whether people are interested in contributing to space exploration, it was pretty resounding. I think sort of 95%. And I will come and fight the 2% of people who said they weren't interested. You know you're out there. So for my next speaker, I would like to invite Dmitry Lakustov to the stage from Roscosmos, and he is head of international cooperation. Very appropriate title for this.
Dear colleagues, we're happy to see you here in Bremen. Fortunately, our Director General, Dr. Dmitry Rogozin, was not able to make it to Germany this time. For the reason most of you are probably well aware of, fortunately. Anyway, as you may know, this year Roscosmos underwent a major reorganization of especially the senior level staff. Our main tasks today are defined by the President of the Russian Federation. In particular, first, to consolidate industrial and technical capabilities as well as space programs. Second, to increase manageability of Russian space industry, to avoid isolated or duplicated processes. Third, to sustain and improve bi- and multilateral cooperation in the field of space science, exploration, and technical development. Fourth, to improve effectiveness for better and more beneficial participation in international space market. Of course, with the existing, to put it accurately, tensions in international environment, it's not that easy to accomplish these tasks, but as you know, markets are often driven by certain political motives and economic protectionism. But in any case, we're aiming at accomplishing our utmost with existing finances and partners, and we do not have room to fail. As an example, I would like to highlight our space launch activities. Please, you can see them. This year, we have accomplished 9 space launches, and another one is the use of our launcher by our partners from Aerospace. Just to mention that Sentinel and Ultra-B missions were launched by our rockets. Other 6 or 7 launches pending payload availability plus 2 or 3 by our partners are also coming by this year. So this gives us not a decline, which was claimed by certain experts, but more or less quite a sustainable level. Our rocket engines continue to be used to propel American Atlas V and Antares launch vehicles. With gradual phase-out of Proton launch vehicle, which was predicted long ago, we are continuing our work to qualify and validate Angara model launch vehicle family. We are also improving capabilities and flexibility of existing Soyuz family by introducing a new mid-level launcher, Soyuz 5. In the area of science, we are currently working with our partners to decide on future paths of human exploration. We are committed to continue using the ISS, but now as the lunar orbital platform is on the way, is taking shape, we have to move on. And we think that one of indisputable values of international cooperation in space is providing unrestricted access for aspiring nations to human space exploration. By the way, I myself was inspired by the works of Ray Bradbury, living in a small town in Russia, and only long after I discovered the works of Nikolai Fedorov, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, and Ivan Bunin, who was also inspired by space and who was the first Russian writer to be awarded the Nobel Prize for literature. So we do hope that the new piloted spacecraft, developed by different companies and nations, will make space flights more affordable. As for all times in the history, the goal of humanity was to expand beyond the boundary of a known world. This year we're holding a conference celebrating 20 years anniversary of the International Space Station, and we'll be holding a conference devoted to this event in Moscow on November 19th. We have sent out invitations. We hope to take stock of what's happened and to think about further projects. Thank you very much.
So Dimitri, the question of the use of nuclear power in space, it was very firmly, yes it should, but with emphasis on safety, and then yes, but for deep space missions. Were you expecting that?
I was expecting the third answer probably to get.
So it was the vast majority was in favor of
Okay,
only about 4 or 7% were against it because it's too dangerous. The other one changing between the first and the second.
Sure, we didn't expect that.
You did? Yes.
Oh, not me.
Yeah, it was a surprise to me. I thought people would be more cautious. Well, thank you very much. And I would like to introduce Sylvain Lepont of CSA, President of the CSA. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'd like to thank the organizers for selecting such an important theme about involving everyone. I mean, we all know here in this room how important it is to collaborate internationally, nationally, between industry, between universities, to have success in space. And I think the idea of talking about involving everyone gives us an opportunity to talk about the other dimensions of collaboration. And I'm going to address two of those today. The first one I'm going to address is about how we go about externally as an agency in involving everyone. So over the course of the last year, we've had quite a number of activities at the Space Agency, like every other agency, but I've picked two activities that speak a whole lot more about involving everyone. The first one was that in preparation for how Canada could contribute to the lunar program and the Mars program, we were asking ourselves, well, how can we get more involved in space medicine, which is something that has been dear to the hearts of Canadians. On the ISS, we've spent the last 20 years doing experiments in life sciences, so we wanted to take that to the next level. But in recognition of the fact that we didn't have all of the medical expertise within the CSA, we went out to the medical community in Canada to reach out to them and ask them what they thought we should contribute. So at first when we approached them, they said, well, look, we don't do space medicine. But it didn't take a whole lot of time for them to realize that what they were doing here on Earth actually helped astronauts out in space. So I share with you that we did some roundtables, we went across the country, and we garnered about 300 medical researchers during those roundtable discussions. And it kind of showed that there was a lot of interest in space. So going out there and getting contributions and ideas from everyone sure paid dividends for us, because what they suggested we do, I think, is going to be groundbreaking. The other external activity that we did is that we hired 2 new astronauts last year. And, as hiring astronauts go, and as public as it may seem, it truly is an internal hiring process. So we could have done that all by ourselves and, done the usual thing. But this time around, we thought we'd take the opportunity to raise the pride of Canadians and involve the Canadians out there in terms of helping us create a context where we could select the best astronauts. And that way we involved the public in the selection. So what we did is after we got about 4,000 eligible candidates, we went through the calling process, got down to about 70. And at that point, we kind of played the TV show of Survivor, and we put all their profiles on the web. And then we narrowed the list down, so we're kind of voted off the island after a while. But what we did by that is we provided local communities with an opportunity to, with their media, to actually profile the astronaut candidates. Universities did the same, alma maters did the same, national media did the same, and by involving the public, it gave us an excellent platform to evaluate potential candidate astronauts in their public relations skills. So that served us very, very well in the selection of our 2 astronauts. So when you talk about involving everyone, we certainly went a long way with that one by involving all Canadians. With respect to current activities that are coming up, we have a Canadian astronaut there, David Saint-Jacques. He's not one of the 2 new recruits. The recruits are still in training school over with Jim's organization in Houston. But David is a long-standing astronaut with the Canadian Space Agency, and he's scheduled for liftoff out of Baikonur in December of this year. So we're looking forward to his 6-month tour on the International Space Station. And we're also going to be launching in a few months Canada's first Earth observation constellation. So Canada has had a succession of synthetic aperture radar satellites called RadarSat. We've had RadarSat 1, RadarSat 2, and this will be the RadarSat constellation mission. And it will be a constellation of 3 satellites that will give us a very, very good refresh rate. And lastly, back to the theme of including everyone, I want to talk about the internal dimension. So I spoke about the external national dimension. Well, from an internal perspective, in Canada, and maybe in some of your countries as well, we have something called the Canada Employment Equity Act. So it's about equity. It's about making sure that each one of the Canadian federal government institutions is diversified and represents within our own organization the makeup of what we see in Canadian society. And we've targeted 4 particular groups to make sure that we were going to be equitable. So we've looked for making sure that women in each one of our departments were represented in the same way as they are in Canadian society, but also visible minorities, disabled persons, and Aboriginal people as well. And we're very glad to say that after many years of putting in equity type of programs, the Canadian Space Agency is now representative of Canadian society. And we all realize by doing that we are enriched by that diversification, that we enrich by having attained our equity targets, because it allows us to tap into a whole lot of knowledge and a whole lot of different ways of solving problems than if we were a monolithic block. Of course, there come some challenges, so we do meet our statistics with respect to women, but women in science, when we drill down into some of the specificity of the numbers, is always a challenge, like it is in most of the countries. So we are working by targeting a lot of our STEM education programs and our outreach programs to try to close that gap and improve the number of women in science. And in Canada, we also have our Aboriginal people who are not well represented in STEM disciplines. And there we've targeted a number of activities to expose them to science and technology. One in particular with the Unweg Development Group, we've actually exposed them to robotic systems. And we did so in about 10 schools or so, and we're able to reach 400 students and expose them to some high-tech environments, which is something that they don't often see there. The other thing we did is, as you can see from the picture, we've built these humongous, very large-scale maps of Canada in a rubber type of display, and we've equipped the teachers with some school lessons and some ways of making it interesting for children to learn their geography by actually sitting on the map, which is a map done by a picture set of RadarSat-2. And what's interesting here for our Aboriginal folks and wanting to tap into traditional knowledge, particularly in the north with our Inuit people, we've adapted the map and the lessons plan to bring in the traditional knowledge so that they learn both from a southern education perspective, but also from a traditional knowledge perspective. And that was quite enriching. So as you can see, involving everyone is done in multiple dimensions. So we make it a point of pride, and it's part of our culture to make sure that we have diversification inside our agency, but we also make it a very special standard practice to involve people outside the agency in our business. Thank you very much.
What can we do to prepare students for the jobs of tomorrow? We had a variety of answers displayed as a word cloud: internships, education, inspiration. Beer seemed to be a central feature though, which I don't think is quite right for our young people, but maybe it speaks of a requirement of the audience. But thank you very much. And finally, we've got Jim Bernstein from the National Administrator. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So the question I just saw was, what would a space agency do to improve the workforce of tomorrow? What should they be involved in? And I think the number one answer was beer. Is that correct? Number two was inspiration.
Yes.
So NASA has some experience in inspiration. We've had that experience going back to the Apollo era. But I can also tell you, as a matter of truth, since that question came up, nice work, Sylvain. Since that question came up, it is also true that we have had experiments on the International Space Station that dealt with beer. If you can imagine that. Not to drink, mind you, not to drink, but just studies on it. And if it was up to me, we'd be studying the effects of zero gravity on Diet Mountain Dew, but that wasn't up to me back then. But I just want to say what an honor it is to be here. The IAF has done an amazing job putting this together. So thank you so much. The opening ceremony this morning was fantastic. Jean-Yves, thank you for all the hard work you and the team here in Germany did to put this amazing event together. Thank you. I will also note that I heard loud and clear Jean-Yves say that the goal for next year is 10,000. I know he said into the future. But next year, we're doing the IAC in America. And if you say we need 10,000, we're going to do everything we can to get 10,000 people. And we need everybody here to come. Washington, D.C., it will be in late October next year, so we're very much anticipating that eventuality. You know what's unique about today, especially for me as the NASA administrator? Today, NASA is 60 years old, and we are thrilled to be celebrating that here at the IAC. We have a long history of stunning achievements at NASA, stunning achievements along with our international partners, many of which are here today, in fact, all of which I think are here today, and there's a great future to come. You know, a lot of people I heard earlier, Maggie, you mentioned that if you take all of the agencies across the world and you add up their budgets, it was $42.5 billion. That is an amazing total. And it dawned on me that NASA's budget is $21.5 billion. So we're equal to the rest of the world combined, which is an amazing role that we play. And historically, we've had that role, and we want to maintain that role. But I am telling you, we cannot do what we do without the support of our international partners and all of the technologies and capabilities that our international partners bring to the efforts and the capabilities that NASA is involved in. So thank you all for your long support of our objectives, and thank you for really the next generation, which is what I want to talk about today. You know, everybody knows we've been to the moon. From 1969 to 1972, we went to the moon 6 different times with 12 people. And back then, we had one partner, Australia. By the way, congratulations to Megan. I know she's here. Thank you for your country reestablishing a space agency. I heard Jan Werner talking earlier about how there are more space agencies on the face of the planet today than ever before. And that's a wonderful thing for all of us. That means we're about to do more than we've ever been able to do before. And in this particular case, my charge from the president is to go back to the moon, but to do it differently than we did in the 1960s and the 1970s. What he signed was Space Policy Directive 1 that says we want to go to the moon, and we want to go sustainably. This time when we go to the moon, we're going to stay. We have seen what happens with reusable rockets. The cost of access to space goes down, access to space goes up, and it improves everybody's ability to participate in space activities. Well, we want the architecture between the Earth and the moon in its entirety to be reusable. We want tugs that go from low Earth orbit to lunar orbit to be reusable. We want a permanent command module in orbit around the moon. We call it the Gateway, so that we can go back and forth to the surface of the moon over and over and over again with reusable landers. And we want this architecture to be open. In other words, the way we supply power and the way we dock to it is going to be available to the public at large. And if there is a country out there, or if there is a company out there that wants to participate in the architecture because it is open, we want you to participate in this architecture. The goal here is to get to more parts on the moon than we've ever been able to get to. We go back to the early lunar days. And when we think about what we were able to discover, it is amazing. But from 1969 up until 2008, most people believed that the moon was bone dry. And then because of a discovery by ISRO, we now know that there's water ice on the moon, and in 2009 we discovered that there's potentially hundreds of billions of tons of water ice on the surface of the moon. The other thing that Space Policy Directive 1 says is that this time when we go to the moon, we're going to utilize the resources of the moon. Water ice represents life support, air to breathe, water to drink, but it also represents propulsion. Liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen is, of course, rocket fuel, and it is now, as we know, abundant on the surface of the moon. So all of these things collude, taking what Jan said earlier. We now have more international partners on the surface of the planet. We now have more international commercial capabilities on the surface of the planet to capitalize all of this capability to get us back to the moon in a way that is sustainable. In other words, we're not going to leave flags and footprints. We're going to go with an architecture where we can go back and forth over and over again and ultimately have international partners with us side by side, each contributing what we know each of us is good at contributing so that we can have this long-term sustainable architecture. In the end, our objective is to retire risk, prove human physiology, and then ultimately take the next step to the moon. We talk about the gateway being that reusable command module in orbit around the moon. It has the ability to be there for 15 years. The first one is all about retiring risk. It's a technology demonstrator. It gets us to more parts of the moon than ever before. It will have solar electric propulsion, so we can go to the L1 point and the L2 point, getting us to the poles of the moon so we can do more research and learn more about the moon than we've ever been able to learn before. But that gateway not only is a way to get around the moon, but the second gateway is a deep space transport. And that's our vehicle to get to Mars. We want to retire the risk. We want as much of it to be replicable at the surface of Mars. And friends, that's what we're here today to discuss. It's an open architecture. We want everybody to participate. We want to include everyone. And I'll tell you, we've had great conversations with our current partners on the International Space Station, and of course NASA has, at this point, over 800 contracts with 120 different countries where we're partnering, and we want more. We want to be able to do more than we've ever done before, and collaboration and cooperation is the way to get it done. So I just want to say thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Look forward to any questions.
Well, it's time to open up the panel now and start asking some questions. I have some questions here, but actually one of my first questions, and also the question posed by, I think, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Ian Benken, is regarding a global space agency. And the way I phrase it is, can we ever envisage a future where we'll have a global space agency, or do we believe that you need some cataclysmic catastrophe to be heading towards the Earth before we all pull together? And so we'll start off with that question. Would you like to start responding to that? So just to repeat the question, have you ever envisaged a future where we have a global space agency, including everyone? Yes, and yes. So can you picture us in the future?
Definitely that is, we have to get in the global, this one. And some of the areas, some two areas I can say that. One is that the debris is the one global concern. So unless, until all the space agencies come together and solving the problem, this problem not be solved. That is the one thing. Second thing is like the global, the climate change. This also there is, we need to go over it. And I'm sure that to solve these problems very soon, that the space agencies will come together and they will solve the problem. So I hope so. This was.
I can tell you something. When I'm traveling around in the world, I'm asking this question always to young people, asking what do you see in the future? A global space agency, a continental agency, or national agency? And I can tell you, first of all, it depends on the age, the answer. The younger the people, the more it's global. The second thing is, it's different from country to country, but I will not disclose that result right now. But it's different from country to country. It's surprising what you get as a result. But it's clear, the younger the generation is, the more they think global.
Anyone else?
Well, I agree with that assessment completely. Here we are in Germany where the Peace of Westphalia was signed many years ago, and it established the international order. And that international order ultimately did not encourage nations to get involved with each other. And now we're living in a different era where nations are getting involved in each other. And we are cooperating in ways that we've never seen before. And that's a very positive development. It's important to note that two of the biggest partners on the International Space Station are the United States and Russia. And that's an amazing relationship for us to be able to have and maintain. Because as many people in this room are aware, we do have interests that are not always aligned. But when it comes to space, we have the ability to cooperate and to achieve things that we never could otherwise have achieved on our own. So I think space is unique. And there's an opportunity here to collaborate and cooperate more than ever before.
Well, I'm not sure if we need a global space agency, but I'd like to say that, as you can see, that we are here on this floor, that we are already working towards the same direction to resolve issues on the Earth and to make our daily life better. So I think the only way to go is to strengthen the current relationship for future collaboration.
Thank you. Continuing on this, looking at one of my questions, it is very much in line with Thomas Schumann's question regarding, it's sort of nearly 60 years since Luna 1 did the first lunar flyby, and nearly 50 years since humans landed on the moon. So what role do we see the moon playing in the near future? And how will we ever get the ever-promised lunar base? I've heard about it since I was a child. I've been waiting. Will it ever come? And if so, when?
Okay, it's simple. It depends what you call a lunar base. If you believe that we will have an outpost there where people start to live and for their whole life, then I would say hopefully not. The Earth is much too beautiful to leave it. If you go there for a holiday, or for research or science...
I'm thinking retirement myself.
No, but this is therefore this idea, this concept of a moon village is really not to stay there for permanent, but to have a permanent base there for people to go, for robots to go, for rovers to go, for doing research technology, to use the moon resources, to learn about how to use resources in situ resource utilization. Also, if we go to other bodies in the universe, and therefore the Lunar Gateway, of course, is one step in that direction. We have also a company in UK which is now developing a communication base to have the better communication because between the surface of the moon and the Earth. There is, and we gather it on our webpage, it's not an ESA project, I always have to repeat. It's just to try to have the international community of all actors, industry, universities, space agencies or whatever, working together and go to this place. We don't need a single hatch where you need a permission or a visa to enter. The moon is there and you can go there. And therefore the moon is the best place to go. And therefore Lunar Gateway is a very important brickstone for that. We will see some missions under the headline of Moon Village to go to the moon next year. So it's not a done deal, but it's not any longer a vision. It will be realized in the upcoming years, and you will see robots working together on the moon. You will see humans go to the moon, hopefully also to the far side to have an observatory there to look into the deep parts of our universe. So for me, it's clear. And Lunar Gateway is a clear step in that direction. Some other projects we have together also with Russia are still clear steps. So it is very nice that we go, and this is the only thing when I contradict you, Jim.
Okay.
We don't go back to the moon. We go forward.
Forward to the moon.
Forward to the moon.
If I could for just 1 second, everything Jan said is correct. And Jan, you have been leading on this for a very long time, and we're grateful for your leadership on it. And of course, because of what the European Space Agency has been doing, we're going to be able to do more than ever before, and of course others on the stage. That being said, when we have finite resources, and I think another important point that I I didn't make earlier, I think is important. The United States budget for NASA this year, 2018, went up $1.7 billion, that shows you the direction that we're heading. The President's budget request was strong, bipartisan support in the U.S. House, and the U.S. Congress was even stronger, and because of that, we're heading in the right direction, which I think is important. But we still have finite resources, and so the question is, do we want to establish a base on the surface of the moon, or do we have the gateway that can get us to more parts of the moon than ever before? And if we establish that base, that could limit our exposure. I think we should do it. I think first we need to get to more parts of the moon to learn as much as we possibly can, and we're very excited about what the Chinese National Space Agency is doing for the first time, doing a mission to the far side of the moon, which is going to give us a lot of information and data that we're going to be able to use for our future operations at and around the moon.
So I've got a question here for Anastasia, and it's what will it take for space agencies to start moving faster towards implementing active debris removal?
I mentioned it in my presentation. We are going into that, for we have this RFI, and I intend, I have to say, to propose to my dear member states next year a program in that. So again, space debris removal is also a global endeavor. We should go on a global scale, and I think this is another aspect where we can really work together. It is sometimes I get the answer when I ask for that, but it's not my waste. I mean, this is ridiculous. It is a global challenge. Our infrastructure depends on that it survives in space, so therefore we better clean it together.
Please.
JAXA is also trying to realize space debris removal, and especially in terms of research and development of technologies. And well, I would like to realize on-orbit space debris removal technology demonstration within several years. And actually, we have already proposed, requested some budget for that to the government this year.
So it's looking for the future.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So if I take the question number 2 now, and this is, I guess, I'd like to jump towards you, Jim. Would NASA dare to involve everyone and push to relax the rules so that non-US citizens can work for US sols?
Let's see, I'm trying to read, let's see. Oh, that's an interesting question. Let's see. So we're looking to relax the rules so that non-U.S. citizens can work for U.S.
I'm not sure what SOLs means.
Okay.
Get me clarification.
So that, I'm not too sure what specifically the issue is here, but we do have non-U.S. citizens that work throughout NASA and provide great information and technology, and certainly they're some of our finest engineers and scientists. So I'm not too sure that we need to make a change here, but if there is a need to make a change, I'd love to learn about it.
Thank you. I've got a question, a serious question. Is Elon Musk coming? I think the answer is unfortunately no, but please do correct me if that's not the case. Okay, lovely. Oh yes, actually, is it possible to mute the microphones of speakers which are not speaking? I'm not sure if that's possible, but I'll throw it to over there and see if it's possible. Thank you. Now let's see. What else have we got? Well, actually, I'm going to refer to one of my questions. And with space becoming more and more commercialised, is the role of space agencies what they were in the past? How are space agencies evolving to sort of accommodate and to sort of work with these commercialised companies?
Our role is changing dramatically. I did not say that in my earlier intervention, I just mentioned it. So in the past, we were the ones having the money and giving it to industry and doing part of the management. In the future, we will be partner of industry. We will be also something like a broker. Now you say broker, what does it mean? So for instance, for the Moon Village idea, We are not the ones having the rights on that, but we are trying to put together industries from this side and agencies from there and universities from there on our platform. We offer them to provide what that they can do, and we offer them to say what they would like to get. And this is a typical broker function, so it's a broker. So we are in the future partner, broker, enabler, mediator, facilitator. So the agency's world is changing. But this is something we have to see, and it's a good opportunity. And of course, space is big enough. That doesn't mean that we need less money. We have still not enough money for all our dreams. So if industry takes some of it on its own risk, this is important, not for the public money, but on its own risk, it's excellent for the agencies because we still have big dreams to realize.
Please.
这个中美之间在航天合作呀，我们的确是有很多的考虑。我们首先啊，对于这个中国航天和各个国家的合作啊，是有开放的这样一个态度的。
So I'm seeing the first question and trying to answer that one as China is very open for lunar exploration programs, and we do have many international partners in our exploration projects.
那么几天前，我在跟俄罗斯这个罗格金先生也好，今天早上跟我们的这个 NASA 的这个局长谈话也好，我们都表达了双方深度合作的这样一个意愿。
Just 2 days ago, I had a discussion with Roscosmos, Mr. Rogozin, for a bilateral cooperation. And this morning, I had also a very good discussion with NASA Administrator Mr. Bradenthal for our bilateral cooperation in these particular areas. I think the response are very positive.
实际上，我刚才在讲话中啊，谈到了我们的这个嫦娥4号也好，以及未来的嫦娥5号也好，我们都是以这种非常开放的心态，特别希望呢，跟美国的同行，我们今天在座的参加这个会议的各方面呢，进行深度的合作。
Just now I have made a presentation about the Chang'e 4 mission, which is going to be landing on the far side of the moon, and also the Chang'e 5 and 6 sample return missions. These are all open for international collaborations, and we are very pleased to have this opportunity to sit around with the head of agencies and all of you to explore possible cooperation approaches. Thank you.
And it is absolutely true that NASA, we do cooperate with China when it comes to aeronautics, especially air traffic management. We cooperate with China on earth science and some of the data regarding the Himalayas and the glaciers thereon. So we do cooperate in a lot of ways. That doesn't mean our interests are always aligned, and some of these decisions are going to be above the pay grade of the NASA administrator. And I'm very well aware of that, but know this, to the extent that agencies and countries from around the world can cooperate on space, it is absolutely in our interest to do so, and I look forward to exploring more opportunities to do that.
就是我们呢，把双方啊共同感兴趣的事情呢，都先列出来，然后呢，看看啊这个有一些呢，可能我们现在暂时还不能合作的，我们就暂时把它放在一边。我们把这些呢能够进行合作的，我们要开展深入的推进。
Yes, I believe the working teams on both sides can start preparation of a cooperation list. We can dash out those who cannot be implemented now or above our pay grade, and then we can start cooperating on the substantial part.
包括一些数据的交换啊，包括这个空间碎片啊，这个都是我们非常愿意。
These including the exchange of scientific data, including the communication of collision avoidance and space debris issues.
That is an absolute big one, and we need to all be cooperating on that 100%.
So, looking down the questions, so given the panel's participation and the challenges ahead concerning human space exploration, when and how will we see the cooperation involving China, e.g. LOPG? We might have just covered some of that already. Okay, so moving on. I guess that's question number 2 is, Jim, do you believe in climate change?
Yes.
Okay, it's official. It's a yes.
Just to be clear, because there might be some misperceptions out there. The interesting thing is, when I was serving in the House of Representatives, I actually had a long history of legislative accomplishments that included the National Defense Authorization Act, the Department of Defense actually doing studies to understand how climate change is affecting our national security posture. The reality is the Arctic ice is melting, and that creates a national security kind of challenge that the United States has to live up to. So I would say that when you go through a confirmation process in Washington, D.C., the entirety of your career does not get put on display. But people like to say things that may or may not be true or exaggerate them very badly to achieve an end. And that's the way Washington works. I'm perfectly okay with it. I come from the political arena, and that's just the reality of our open and transparent system. We want all ideas to be able to be expressed, and in the end, I think the truth prevailed. It is also true that I've been on the record for a long time saying that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, that humans have put more of it into the atmosphere than ever before, and therefore we are contributing to the warming that we're seeing. And I said that long before I was even nominated, let alone confirmed to be the NASA administrator.
The end of this question and answer session, but I'd actually like to put a question to all of you. So NASA is celebrating its 60th anniversary today, and many of the other space agencies are well established, but there is more and more space agencies coming online as we speak. And so, as heads or representatives of space agencies, what advice would you give to the new space agencies which are forming out there as we speak? And if you could just go round the table and say, what advice would you give to new space agencies? But make it quite brief, because we're running out of time. Thank you.
Well, I guess with all humility, I'd be careful in prioritizing their needs and have to recognize that they have to make their own national decisions before they go forward. But I guess as a big brother, kind of a recommendation, I would say that first and foremost, it's all about the people, right? So when you form a space agency, you need a whole bunch of complicated things, maybe a new act of parliament, you need a whole lot of new resources and some real estate, all sorts of logistics. But in the end, what's going to make you successful is how much you've invested in the people themselves, right?
Thank you.
First, to be realistic when you're planning. Secondly, to invite essential partners, cooperate. And third, probably the most important thing, is think about the youth. You should think about the young generation. We've seen today a very beautiful beginning of this event. Young professionals are really what we should think of.
Experience of 2 countries coming and asking me what should be the right solution for a space agency, and my advice was not look to the other space agencies, but think about what you would like to do and look also to the shift of paradigm, because if you are copying first of all us, then you have to afterwards do the shift of paradigm. So without that you can directly go into a new world. That's better.
Yes. Head for the news. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I will say the same thing. Prioritize your needs, and before that, you have to listen to the users or stakeholders. Listen, listen, and listen.
Right, yes. Actually, on that basis, I think beer should feature in any future space agency, because it has been very prominent in the questions today. So thank you. So advice for future space agencies?
Now, future advice really is more and more collaboration is required, because this is mainly our aliens are going, the tasks are going to be very tough and also be costly. And to ensure that it's a very cost effective way, also that it's better to bring more and more collaborations. And because there are many common problems. It is beyond the boundaries of the nations or countries. There are common problems are there. These common problems we have to solve as an international, as a single agency. And I'm sure that the trend is slowly coming towards that, to achieve that one.
So there's hope for the future?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you very much.
I think when you think about space agencies in general and the new ones that are popping up especially, I think it's important to find alignment and figure out what are the areas where your country or your space agency has a particular capability that can add to the effort that all of us are going to put forward for that next big stunning achievement. Because as we build the gateway, as we think about the lunar architecture, the future, and then taking it to Mars, what we're trying to do is figure out who can fit in the best places to maximize our capabilities. So I think alignment is the key.
Find your unique selling point. Yes, thank you.
You bet.
Please.
对于成立这个各个国家成立航天局啊，航天航天局持这个非常支持的态度，因为呢，有这样的话呢，使得把一些过去分散在各个部门的，可能有管这个气象的，有管地震的，有管农业的，这样的话有一个统一的部门呢来统一规划。
So I'm very supportive to the establishment of new space agencies. I think one particular reason is because the different resources, for example, Earth resource, meteorologies, satellite application, those can be streamlined by a single organization and authority.
那么另外呢，还有利于呢，通过这样一个机构啊，和其他国家的航天事业、航天管理部门啊，有效的进行合作和沟通。
And this will also be an effective cooperation approach, in particular with other agencies related to space.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I think that draws the end of the question and answer session. And Jan, now in your capacity of Vice President of IFA, would you like to give us a summary?
Oh, that's a good subject.
Over to you.
Should I be at the podium to be
Yeah, if you would, I think that's probably easiest.
Okay, I do it more formal. So this was a nice session. I learned a lot, and I think really, I thank you very much also Maggie for moderating. And what I think was very important to get the reaction from your side, not the reaction only, but also positive ideas, actively, proactively announced. And I can really very clearly tell you, we will take your results, of course, in IAF also for future programs, what we are doing, what we also presenting in all these conferences, in the interactions. But for me personally, as the head of ESA, I learned a lot. So thank you very much to the podium, thank you very much to all of you. So be involved in the future. We need you, you need maybe also us. Thank you very much.